So hey guys, welcome to Transparent with the Townsends live. On this episode, did you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. The focus for today's live episode is basically, so we were actually thinking, because we got a new video coming out on our YouTube on Friday, so guys, be sure to get ready to check that out. It's a new series we're going to start called Honest Conversations About ... And so the next episode is going to be dealing on Friday, that is, with infertility. So we figured, why not talk about that on our live too, guys?
You talking so fast. You're making me nervous.
Talking too fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Giving me nervous energy.
We will be talking about infertility on our live. So
tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And on the upcoming episode, which should be out probably like, I don't know, Friday, Saturday.
It's gonna be Friday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to stick hard to that.
Yeah. And we just felt like we obviously started off our YouTube channel talking about our fertility story and our fertility journey, and we realized there's a lot more that we have to tell as we're still going through it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to continue to tell that story and be transparent. And open and
that's
honest.
what we're about.
Yeah.
So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit, and then we're going to get into some questions. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about infertility, dealing with, as far as the focus topic is going to be talking about overcoming the stigma of it. So
what does that mean? Like, what is the stigma?
Well, I would say my definition of the stigma is basically that people have a certain viewpoint when it comes to, or perspective when it comes to infertility, where when you look at it, we view it as either something's wrong with that person, or if you have infertility or dealing with infertility, then something is wrong with me. Like I have a defect or I have a problem. I'm not fully able to be whole in that capacity when it comes to reproduction. There's something wrong with me. And so there is that stigma where you feel like if you are in that situation, which we are, that you either view yourself as inferior, or you view that other people judge you as not being where they are in that physical state. Even if people don't view that point. And some people do actually like have that thought process, like they're better than somebody else because they don't have to deal with that. Or they don't view it as something that is as large as it is. It's not such a fringe group or a small minority. Like it is, it's not a majority thing that everybody deals with, but it's a lot more prevalent than people think it actually is. And so that is something that we need to be more aware of, especially when it comes to having conversations with people concerning, fertility, pregnancy, babies, stuff like that, because it can be a very sensitive topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So then how would you say you overcome the stigma?
Well, I think we have to first go back and realize that we are wonderfully made by the Creator.
Oh, that's good.
So regardless of our struggles or the circumstances that we're dealing with or go through, that He has given us grace for the situation. He's given us, empowered us to be able to go through it. And that if we do go through it, it's because He has given us the grace and the strength to overcome and be able to go through the valley, because that testimony is going to be important for somebody else who may not feel like they have the strength. So us being able to go through it by His strength and testify to going through it and reaching the other side, or finding peace in the midst of the storm, will allow them to be able to gain strength, and then it will also point to Jesus.
Wow, okay. You in your bag today. Look at you tonight on this Bible study. Okay.
So, what's your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think it's unfortunate that it is a stigma, only because it happens to so many people, and it happens to a lot more people than you think, especially like miscarriage. Like that is so common, and it's just really not talked about enough. And it's unfortunate because we don't get the chance, by not talking about it, we don't get the chance to share and mourn with those who mourn. And, you know, that's like, we're supposed to bear each other's burdens as believers. So I think because it is a stigma, or it's seen as something that maybe is uncomfortable to talk about, people don't talk about it, and then everyone's just kind of suffering in silence. So I think it's definitely important to overcome the stigma, because like, who wants to suffer alone? Mm-hmm. You know, that's not how we were created as Christians. We're supposed to bear each other's burdens, and we're supposed to be able to be a community that takes care of each other and just shares our honest struggles. Mm-hmm. You know, and I feel like for us, going through fertility struggles, we suffer for a very long time by ourselves.
Right.
And it was because it was such a stigma, and because, I don't know, like, I thought, and I mean, like, we suffered by ourselves, like, by ourselves.
Self-inflicted.
We couldn't even, like, our families kind of knew, but they didn't know, like, all the details, and I never thought I could tell the whole story to them, because, I don't know, I think I didn't want them to commiserate with me, and I didn't want anybody to pity me. So I didn't tell the whole truth, because I thought there's a stigma here. They're going to pity me, or I don't know, which is just such a lie. And I will not be bound by that lie anymore. But yeah, I think that's why it's important to overcome it, because it's too, and we talk about this in our upcoming episode, but it's too hard to bear alone. And it's because we're not supposed to bear it alone. Right.
And I think that you kind of nailed it on the head there a little bit with the whole thing about pity. I think that that's nothing but the attack of the enemy, because it all stems back to shame. So we look at infertility as something that we have to be ashamed about. And so when we view it from that standpoint, nobody wants to feel pity or feel that somebody has a reason to pity them, because it makes us feel like we're in a state of not equal. Yeah. And so...
Inadequacy.
Yeah, inadequacy. Mm-hmm. Like I said, something's wrong with me. I don't want you to feel that way about me. Yeah. I want you to look at me as an equal to you. Right. So whenever pity comes into that, and society has kind of placed that placed us in this position where pride and superiority is a very much regular part of our culture, I think. And so in that, it kind of leads to the point where, like, I think subconsciously we always kind of look for a situation where we can look at ourselves as better as somebody else. Mm. So then, like, when we have a point where we feel like we're, like, lesser than, we're like, you ain't about to pity me.
Especially men, and I don't mean to, like, over generalize, but I mean, like, how did you feel once you did open up as a man, saying, okay, I'm struggling to conceive a child? Like, how did you feel? Because men do deal a lot in their pride.
So I realized after I had the conversation and I was open about it and transparent about it, and we've been open about this, you know, I have not felt pity. I've actually, in a sense, felt stronger than I thought I would, because, like, I feel like the moment, I talked about this in the video, but the one on Friday, but I kind of want to say that it's when you can look head on and be in the, like, just really accept your life for what it is and be okay with that. I think there's a certain strength in that. And so you can actually look at it and be like, I'm not inadequate. This is just a struggle that I have to go through. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. And it's not even just that I'm okay, it's that I'm trusting God's timing. Yeah. Because he's going to be with me through the midst of the struggle. Like, for example, you have plenty of people who were barren or dealt with infertility in the Bible. Yeah. You know, you have Abraham and Sarah. And so, you know, Abraham and Sarah, like the biggest problem with them is they didn't wait on God's timing. They kept being impatient, and so that impatience led to a whole bunch of drama. So once they actually learned how to have patience and trust God's timing and trust God at His word, then Isaac came. Yeah. And so, you know, he came at the right proper time, you know, and then his son, Isaac and Rebecca, I believe, right? Isaac and Rebecca, she dealt with infertility. And so Isaac prayed for his wife to have children for years. And it doesn't say he did it out of any, he didn't have any type of feelings or anger about it, nothing like that. He just consistently, persistently prayed to God and laid it in God's hand and trusted God's timing. And so in doing that, she was pregnant at the proper time. And so I think there's plenty of the people, I think Hannah, you know, she went to God and she just laid it at, you know, God for whenever God would do it. Of course, she dealt with the struggles of fertility, I think, more so than all the other people, because she had that feeling of pity, inadequacy, the pain, and also the other wife that was in the situation had multiple children, and she was flaunting it in her face. And so for her, it was more of a pain struggle than the other ones, I think. But she didn't she took that pain and she gave it to God, and she prayed and asked for Him to give her desires in His own way, and that she would dedicate the child back to Him. And so He answered that prayer to her, and then He also blessed her with plenty of other children after that too. So it's all in timing, and then also I think in making sure that God is priority. And so I think in that overcoming, I kind of learned that opening yourself up, not focusing inward, like, oh, I'm the problem, there's something wrong with me, in wallowing in that valley of despair, and just opening up and pointing myself up to God and saying, God, this is my problem, which you already know. Like, you designed me, you know about me, you know about all the different things I did through my life that may have impacted how my body is now. And so I trust you for this. I'm giving you this. I don't know, it's kind of similar to how I trusted when it came to me meeting you. I was single for years. I wanted to be married for a long time. I've been struggling, chasing, looking after women, trying to find the right wife. Things didn't work out. And then finally, I finally got to a point where I was like, God, I'm giving you my love life. I'm dedicating my love life to you. Like, if I'm single for the rest of my life, that's up to you. If I'm married, you're going to have to bring her to me. I'm not chasing. You're going to have to introduce her to me. I'm not doing all that extra stuff. And lo and behold, He brought me to you. Which nothing but the providence of God on that, because all the steps that just kind of flew with that was literally like God's hand was on that. So it's kind of, I think the same thing. We've kind of come to that same point with our journey, where we've kind of given it to God and said, God, you know, all we can do is plant the seeds. But you are the harvest. Like, you're the one who brings the harvest. Right. So whenever the timing is right for the harvest, like, you do so. We trust you in your timing on that. And I know that you'll bless us in that, in the right time. Because I think we have to always understand, like, God's timing is perfect, and there's certain things that have to line up. Yeah. Like, our child might do something amazing in the world, but it has to happen 10 years down the road or something like that. Or 20, 30 years down the road, and he might be too old if he's born now. Or, you know, whatever. So, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But I'm just saying timing is everything, and we can't see it until later, I think. And you're in the midst of it. You can't see the full picture. He's outside of it, so he can see the full perspective.
He's got the bird's eye view.
Right.
So that was good. That was good. You ready to get into our question?
Yeah, because I've been running talking for a while.
You've been on a rant. But it was good. It was good stuff you just said. I was like, look at the Holy Spirit using him.
Well, okay. Let me ask you your question, because I don't want to keep talking, because you're going to ask me a question. So what advice would you give to someone who feels judged by others in their infertility struggle?
Someone who feels judged by others in their struggles with infertility. Yep. I think, like you said, pouring out. Like, when you said pouring out, I was like, ooh. I don't know, if something about it just resonated with me, because I feel like I only ever felt better once I started pouring out to God crying out to God about it, and then pouring out to others as well. So I think if someone was struggling to conceive and they felt judged, more particularly by like the people around them, I think sometimes there's a season where you have to, I mean, it's not going to sound great, but you do have to isolate from the people who judge you and the people who maybe, because if you have a conversation with them and you open up to them about what you're struggling with, which is hard to do, but you can do it because God graces you to do it, and because we're created to do that, to be in community with others in our struggles. And if you do that, you open up and they don't receive it, or they just can't understand your struggle, or they just can't even be there or be present for you, then it might be a season where you just have to step back. And I think, and I'm not so much in them now, but back when I was in, you know, my TTC groups and the infertility groups and things like that, I would read stories about women who just had seasons where they couldn't be friends with their friends anymore because their friends just didn't get it, and they didn't understand the place that they were in, and that they could no longer show up as themselves anymore. And I'm grateful to God that my friends are not that way. You know, they accept me and they let me just be me and be however I am, however I show up. But if people are judging you, it might be just time for you to step back, you know, spend time with the Lord, pray for people, to pray for God to send people to you who can minister to you and who can accept you as you are, and who, like, just sometimes you just need people to like hug you. Yeah. Like, even if someone doesn't have anything to say to you, they can just lend an ear and listen to you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
That's good.
You?
I'd say similar. I mean, I think that you need to make sure that you don't isolate yourself.
Yeah.
So I think
you don't want to be too alone, but if you need to separate from the people you need to separate from and put up boundaries, that's okay.
So I want to preface that by saying, if you do separate, make sure that you find yourself another community.
Yeah. Like, don't be alone.
Like, don't separate and then isolate completely forever. Just because isolation is never a good thing. I think it's important, especially when you're going through struggles, that you find yourself in community. You find yourself in a group that you can be open with and connect with, and they can help you to bear that burden. Yeah, definitely people will be in your life for a season.
Some people in your life for a season. And the thing about that is, sometimes people are in your life for a season, and they go out for a season, and they can come back in the next season. You know, sometimes you just need a break from people. And that's not even just with infertility struggles. That's just with life. Like, sometimes a person is just not where you are at mentally, maybe spiritually, emotionally. And you just need to step back, set some boundaries. And then when they can get on your level, or you are on their level again, you just step back in. Step back in your season.
And definitely make sure that you have, at least ask people to pray for you.
Yeah. That made a world of a difference for me. Yeah. A world of a difference. When I could just open my mouth and say, can you please pray for me? Because there was just only so much praying I could do for myself, and we could do for each other. And honestly, I don't know if we were praying that much together.
No, we were not.
Unfortunately.
We were not. Unfortunately, no.
Like, I think we were in such a low place that we were both isolated from each other, and we couldn't talk to each other about it, but we couldn't talk to anybody else about it either. And that was a terrible place for us to be. So, you know, and this is not even just about infertility. Like, sometimes I think in a marriage, if you're struggling, you just get to that place where you can't talk to each other about something, or you can't communicate. And we weren't communicating with God either about it. Like, I barely was, because I was mad at God. So, you know, that made it all the more harder to even ask other people for help.
So someone asked the question, they said what happened, and so I just kind of want to address that a little bit. Basically, during our infertility struggles, I think it was like mid-process, we had kind of found out, like I found out that I, you know, had low sperm count and all the other stuff, and issues with my body, and then you found out about the stuff that was going on with you physically, and how So I think we were both in a self-pitying moment.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely checked into myself.
Yeah, you shut down.
Yeah, I did shut down.
I was just depressed.
I did shut down, and I did not pay attention to the fact that you were depressed. No, I think I did know you were depressed.
I think you did.
I think I was depressed too. I just didn't know how to
Right.
I was more focused on my own depression than to try to help you in your depression. I think we both were so focused in our depressions that we
focused in instead of pouring out.
Right.
Right. And that was not a good space for either of us to be in, especially because we needed each other.
Yeah.
Like, if nobody else understood what we were going through, we understood because we were both in the boat together.
I was in shame.
Yeah.
I was in shame for myself, and I was in shame because I didn't want nobody else to know. So I didn't talk to nobody, and I didn't talk to you.
Can I share something really quick?
Sure.
And I don't know if you remember this. So this is super transparent because I didn't tell him I was going to talk about this. I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but until like a second ago. But I remember when you got your results for your sperm analysis, and you had gone to the appointment and everything, and I was waiting for him to like call me and let me know what the results were, and nothing. Like, I literally had to call you, and I was like, "Is something wrong? Like, what happened?" And I was like, "So how'd everything go?" And you were like, "Yeah, it was, my results were low or whatever." And I was like, was he just not going to tell me? Like, at what point were you going to tell me? And I think I realized then, and I think we went to therapy right after that, because I realized you probably felt a way, but you weren't letting me in on how you felt.
Well, when you called me, I was still processing.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't even had time to process yet, because I had, for a while, because we've been trying for months. And it actually,
that had been
a year.
It'd been over a year.
It's been over a year, actually. It'd been almost a year and a half. And so I felt like something was wrong with me. And I feel like I had that feeling for a long time throughout my life, because I always was like, something must be wrong with me physically. I don't know why I thought that way, but I've thought that way for a long time.
Yeah, I know.
And so when I got the results, it was like just at like the confirmation of my thoughts throughout my whole life. And so I was kind of processing to myself, and then I was also trying to fight, because it was like the demons in my head was trying to be like, yeah, see, you got problems, yeah. So I was kind of like trying
to
he was trying to get me, and so I was like really trying to combat it, and then I was trying to like figure out how I was going to talk to you about it, as I was trying to even come to terms with it. And then I was also trying to be like, can I just rebuke this? And so I was like,
okay. Spirit of the Lord, be gone.
Going through all that process, then you called in the midst of it, and I was just like, it is what it is. But
I think some hours had passed. Like, it was like news that I thought you would have called me right away and be like, "Hey, this is what happened," or "Hey, it went well, everything's good."
No, I was still going through that whole time. I was like,
he didn't even tell me what. Like, I know he got the results today. Like, he didn't call me, he didn't tell me. So I kind of knew that the news was not going to be great.
Yeah.
And if you're just joining, we're talking about our fertility struggles and why it's important to overcome the stigma and just to talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's getting late. So I do have another question for you.
Let's go.
And my question is, how do you think we should handle infertility in the church, like among believers? And maybe we hit on this a little bit already, but I think because we are Christians, and for us it's important to communicate with other Christians. For me, I just always want people to know, especially now that we're talking about it, I always want people to know what we're going through, so they can be aware. But what do you think?
I think that, I hope this doesn't sound offensive.
I don't know. It's okay. Jesus was offensive.
I think that he was at times, I will say. I think that the church needs to be more willing to listen than to be quick to respond.
Say more.
Like, I think we need to be more willing to like listen and hear and observe, and like be willing to like insert ourselves. I won't say insert ourselves, but like try to be prepared to intercede, but also just be prepared to just be a listening ear. Sometimes people don't need like a scripture spouted off. Sometimes people just need to know like that you're there.
Yeah.
And that you can be a listening ear, that you can be a shoulder to cry on, that you can be somebody that they can know that will be ready to intercede with them, to go before the throne of God, you know, to be that prayer warrior.
For you.
Yeah, so I think sometimes
realm.
they just kind of need to know, like, hey, you ready to pray for them, you ready to listen, you ready to just be that steady friend. Yeah. And I think that's important, because I think sometimes we have to like model ourselves and how we like cater to people and their needs after how Jesus did. Because like Jesus wasn't quick to like spout off like the word of God to people in the midst of their struggles. Like, you know, okay. So I'm trying to think of a good example.
I know you got some. You read your Bible.
Well, I mean, there's some people who are like, you know, the woman that issued blood, stuff like that, but like he didn't have to like, he didn't talk to her first. Like she kind of went for her healing on her own. Mm-hmm. You know, I think like the first few people I kind of think about is like the woman at the well, mm-hmm. and how like he didn't really spout off scripture to her. He just kind of had a conversation with her, mm-hmm. and like got in the midst of like, hey, so you know, what are you seeking? What do you want? Okay, you want water? Let me give you, you know, that water. You know, I see where you're at. You're avoiding the situation because you're trying to talk around it. You know, but let's address what the conflict actually is. Let me actually like meet you where you are in your deep struggles, and let's open up about it. Let's like tell me what exactly is going on, so I can tell you exactly how you can get your healing and deliverance and salvation.
He had an honest conversation.
He had an honest conversation with her, helped her to open up and to take away her shame, because her shame was that she had been sleeping with a whole bunch of men, mm-hmm. and some of them were her past husbands, and she had been divorced. And then some of them was like people that she wasn't even married to, mm-hmm. you know, and she was staying with somebody she wasn't even married to. And so she had shame. In the community, she had shame, which is why she was at the water. She was at the well by herself in the middle of the day,
isolated. When
the women usually come early in the morning when the sun ain't out. So she had already been isolated from the community, yeah. And she had accepted that shame.
We got a question.
And so, yes, I'll get to it in a second. And so he had to help her. Meet her in her shame, help her to be open and honest and accept where she was, and realize that's a part of her past, and be like, that's not who you're called to be, mm-hmm. for the future.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the church need to do that?
Yes. I think we have open conversations in the church, and be able to be honest and open and transparent, and be able to not have judgment, to be able to be prayer warriors for people, help them to overcome that shame, and realize that the past is the past. Learn from it, but you are called to be better, or called to, God is redeeming that, and He's going to use that as part of your testimony for your future.
Yes. So we see your question. Are we trying now?
No.
No,
we're not stopping it. But we're not trying IVF. We're not trying, you know, other means. We're just kind of.
I think here's the thing: we're not trying anymore, and by trying, I mean like doing all the things that you would do, like tracking and ovulation tests and all the things that were driving me insane before. I don't have a plan to go back to that, because the Lord told me to stop. So, and this is just for me. Mm-hmm. He told me to stop because it was driving me insane. It was making me depressed. It was a burden that I just couldn't carry anymore. And I stopped. Mm-hmm. So unless he tells me or us, okay, you can try again now. You can resume. I'm good.
He gave me peace in that basically it's like, trust my timing.
Yeah. I mean, we still pray over it. Obviously, you know, we're going to continue. We do want to have a family. And like he said, we're not doing anything to stop it. But we're more reliant on God's timing now. Like, it's not about us so much anymore, because it was really consuming me at a time. It was really consuming me. And it wasn't supposed to, because it wasn't time. And, you know, if you've seen our series, our infertility story series, I talk about how I prayed for the desire, for God to take the desire from me if it wasn't time. And he did. Because at this moment in time, I have no desire to have a child. And, you know, I believe when the time is right, either the desire will come back or we will just probably end up pregnant and it'll be what it is.
It will be a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it down. Maybe that'll work.
No, I think something's going on.
All right. It's my phone. But yeah, so hope we answered your question.
Thank you guys for asking those questions. We're definitely, like, anytime anybody wants to ask questions in the chat, feel free to do so. We're definitely open to it. And we love you guys' involvement in our community. What's up?
Yeah, I have something. So I'm not not open to IVF because, just to be more specific, God told me in a dream that we were going to have a family. So I know it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's not my desire to go through IVF just because I put hormones into my body before when we were doing the TTC journey, and my body didn't do well on hormones at all. I hated it. It gave me pain. So I don't desire to go on hormones or inject hormones into my body. And a lot of that process has to do with that. But, you know, if God says it and he desires it, I would do it for him and I would do it for the Lord. That's it. That's all.
That previous journey right there did not go.
Yeah.
Not go well.
Yeah. I know people who've done IVF. You know, I just met another person like literally last week, a black woman, and she was telling me how she did IVF. And yeah, I think it's amazing. And I believe we're going to have an episode about this because that is also part of the stigma of infertility. I've heard from people that I don't know if they've met people, but they know of people who think doing IVF or IUI is not natural. Like it's not a natural, like it's science and you're creating a baby from science, but the Lord is in that. Because some people and people who I've met can only have a baby and conceive a baby through the science. And the science was created probably for people like them, maybe for people like us. So I'm open.
I mean, I think at the core of that, you know, is that God is like, so man could like figure out and create all kinds of stuff, right? But God is the only one who pours the soul and the spirit into the actual, you know, it's his breath of life into the actual, you know, being. So if he's not in it, then there's not going to be any life. Yeah. So.
Oh gosh. Ooh, you preaching today.
That's how I feel. So. But yeah.
What?
You good?
Yeah. It's my bedtime.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate everybody joining on. We love you guys. Appreciate all the questions in the chat. We appreciate all you guys for being involved in our community. And we actually guys to continue to do so. Check out our video that's coming out on Friday on our YouTube channel. Honest Conversations about ... This one's going to be infertility.
I was ready to say it.
You was. Go ahead.
Honest Conversations about infertility.
Boom. And there's going to be a subtopic that we're getting into. So, guys, we definitely want you guys to check that out. All you guys on the replay, we love you guys. Thank you for watching on the replay. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Good night. Love ya.
Later.
Bye.